I feel like that was a slap in the face.
It would be no different than a driver pulling up and saying, I don't want to have black people in my car.
We got to talk about an incident that is happening right here in my home state of Michigan and has me feeling like society is cooked. Like it's finito, it's over, it's done, because this stuff sounds like beyond parody, but we're living in an upside down world. I can't. We're going to talk about a rapper named Dank DeMoss, who is suing Lyft because a driver didn't allow her in their small car because she is, estimating here, about 600 pounds. Now she's claiming her human rights have been violated, and the crazy part is she might actually win this lawsuit. Buckle up and get ready to board the train to the land of Delulu with me as we take a look at some reporting from local news outlet Fox 2.
The Detroit rapper is going viral for something other than her music.
Fans know her as Dank DeMoss, and they're fuming after a Lyft driver allegedly denied her a ride because of her size.
Well, it all unfolded on video. Deja Banlane whipped out her phone when this all happened. Now, the Lyft driver, he was kind enough and apologetic, but refused her a ride and said that she would not fit and that her weight couldn't be handled by his tires. Now she's filing a lawsuit.
Have you been in cars that size before?
Yes, I have. I've been in cars smarter than that,
Deja Blanding tells us she was just trying to get to a Detroit Lions watch party this month when her Lyft rolled up.
As I'm walking, I see him making faces or whatever. I'm like, oh man.
She already knew.
I can fit in this car.
No, believe me, you can.
Yes, I can.
Believe me.
He told her there's not enough room in his car.
The kicker part was when he started to talk about his tires. I feel like that was a slap in the face. That was like my tires,
The driver said his tires could not handle her weight.
For every big person you turn down because they can't fit in your car?
Yeah, because they need to order the Uber XL.
You know what? I don't never have to order Uber XL.
He apologized, canceled the ride, and left her there. The rapper says she's pretty tough.
I get the money and flip it and make some food.
Dank DeMoss, as she's known at the mic, is crushed by the whole situation.
I just want them to know, it really hurt my feelings.
Okay, maybe I'm just a heartless villain, but I really don't feel bad for her. She got the ride refunded, it didn't take her money, and she can just order another one to come pick her up. It's not like she got stranded somewhere. And yeah, this woman is not slightly chubby. This woman is not obese. This woman has her own zip code. She's gotta be 500 or 600 pounds. So I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world that she should be expected to get an Uber XL, which costs a few dollars more, but it's like a SUV. It's a bigger car she can comfortably fit in. Because imagine if this guy's truly driving a small sedan. And he has some luggage in it. He weighs 200 pounds. A 600-pound edition could put you over the weight limit for a car, which I was Googling of that size. A small car might be 800, 850 pounds. That is not crazy. And what if she gets stuck in his back seat and they have to call the fire department and cut her out of the seats or something? This could be something he's had an issue with before. And I don't think he's crazy or a villain for doing what he did. I just don't. And if I was her personally, I would be less concerned with my hurt feelings because I had to call a different Uber driver, and a lot more concerned with my impending death from extreme morbid obesity. That is going to send you to an early grave, almost certainly. It will shave years and years off your expected lifespan. That's tragic. And I genuinely want her to get help and do better and live a stronger life, because I'm sure in many ways she's a lovely and beautiful person who has family who care about her, who has friends, who apparently makes music. I'm not really a rap person. I hadn't heard of her. Makes music a lot of people enjoy. So she should be around for as long as possible. But that simply will not happen at 600 pounds. And it is not kind to enable people and coddle them about that basic fact. But the craziest thing is that she might actually win this lawsuit, because according to the news reporting, and I confirmed this with some research, Michigan, where I live, is the only state in the country that has weight as a protected class akin to race. Here's some more of that news coverage.
Looks like Lyft might be hurting pretty soon, too.
I knew it was illegal and I knew that it was wrong.
Her attorneys, John Marco and Zach Runyon, say weight is a protected characteristic in Michigan by law.
It would be no different than a driver pulling up and saying, I don't want to have black people in my car, or I don't want to have Christians in my car, or Muslims in my car. It's the same. Under the law, it's the same.
The lawsuit is filed. Since she posted the encounter on social media, other full-figured folks have reached out saying the same thing happened to them.
I can fit in this car.
No, believe me, you can.
Yes, I can. I really want people to see like what we go through as bigger people,
Not the full-figured folks. The euphemisms. What are we going to say next? High-calorie humans? Like, they're fat people. It's okay to refer to them as fat people. That's just a statement of fact. Shouldn't bully them. You shouldn't demean them. But we don't need to, twist ourselves in pretzels to not say the obvious. And I'm sorry, but I did a double take when I heard this attorney say that it's the same thing as somebody pulling up and saying, no black people in my car. No, sir, it is not. At least not morally and ethically. I'm not a lawyer. I can't fully speak to the law, but people can't choose their skin color. They can't choose their race. That is an immutable characteristic about them, something they didn't choose and can't change. That's not how being morbidly obese works. That's not true for people who are, again, we're not talking about 10 or 20 pounds overweight here, morbidly obese. There are some extreme rare exceptions. I want to acknowledge that to be nuanced, where people have unique thyroid conditions or other things that make it almost impossible to not be overweight, but that is a small fraction of a percentage of the people who are 400, 500, 600 pounds. In most cases, in the vast majority of cases, that is a product of their decisions. And I can have compassion for maybe whatever emotional challenges or duress might lead them to make those bad decisions, but we should not. It's actually offensive and just wrong to conflate that with discriminating against people for something like being gay or being black that is not a choice and can't be changed. Treating people differently because of their choices and the product of those choices is something we do all the time and basically shouldn't be illegal. But apparently legislators in Michigan feel differently. Now the courts will have to figure out whether that actually applies to something like Lyft. That'll depend on the specific language of the law. But to me, the fact that that's even a conversation, that this is even a lawsuit somebody thinks they can win, says something about how far off course society has gone. What happened to any sense of personal responsibility or accountability? Has victim culture really gotten this out of control? Stuff like this demoralizes me and makes me feel like we are cooked. And the massive health crisis that is obesity in America is not going to be fixed or resolved through this type of coddling and cultural insanity. That's just my take on a unique situation from a unique woman who, I'll give her this, seems confident.
I be feeling like I can do everything. So when I walk in the gym, I feel like I'm fit. Shit, I be going in the gym in front of all those people, 500 pounds in shorts, no shirt. Well, I have on a sports bra, but
What do you guys think of this story and this whole ordeal? Do you side with her or Lyft? Let me know in the comments and do hit that like button while you're at it. And now we got to check in on the federal government because Washington, D.C. is beyond parody at this point. Trump is working with Elon Musk and Doge, his Department of Government Efficiency, to try to downsize the massive federal bureaucracy, right? We have all these sprawling 3-letter agencies, huge civilian workforce. A lot of it is probably unnecessary and could be chipped away at, but it's very hard because of entrenched protections to actually fire people who work for the federal government, even if they are working to sabotage the president's agenda because they're, hardcore Democrats, or even if they are pretty incompetent. It's very hard. There's extensive protection. So they're kind of trying to do this, but facing headwinds. And some of those headwinds are hilarious, but also mind-boggling. They're trying to offer employees a payout to basically resign, because if they resign, it's much easier to not fill that position and just leave it empty than it is to fire someone in a job that you think is useless and want to eliminate. It's hard to fire them, but if you can get them to resign, you can just not refill the job. And that's probably a more effective way of trying to downsize the federal workforce. So they sent out this very generous offer that basically anybody could take, I think, 8 months of paid leave as like a resignation like package. And now they're getting sued because they emailed federal employees. I'm not joking. I'm not making this up. Federal bureaucrats are suing the Trump administration, claiming that being emailed by the people at the top of the federal government violates their rights as federal employees. No, I did not hit the crack pipe this morning. I am not hallucinating. This is a real thing that's happening. Take a listen to some news coverage.
Federal workers now sounding the alarm over privacy concerns, and a new lawsuit now claims the Trump administration has set up an email distribution system for the entire federal workforce. So they're now concerned about what this means for workers' private data. The lawsuit accuses the U.S. Office of Personnel Management of failing to be able to do an assessment required by federal law to mitigate any privacy risks and how the new system is collecting data of federal employees. And
if you don't stop them from doing this, future harm will occur. Two things which I clearly agree with, but this goes back to government doesn't work like this. There are rules in place so things like this don't happen, so that you're not exposing the hundreds of thousands of government employees to unneeded exposure by creating and implementing a new system that hasn't been properly vetted.
Y'all, I feel like I'm being punked. They're saying it will do harm and violates the rights of federal employees that they got emails sent out from the top of the federal government to the whole federal workforce, and that they created a new system to email all the people that work for the government. Am I just missing the part that harms anyone or violates their privacy? They're just saying like, oh, well, what if they get hacked? I mean, they can always be hacked. That doesn't make sense to me. And what kind of vulnerable data are they getting from you by sending you an email and potentially having you reply? What data are, maybe I'm just not up on cybersecurity, but that seems like a stretch to me. The real issue here is apparently that the federal government can't just email its own employees without going through an elaborate system, apparently, under law. The Federal News Network reports that the 2002 E-Government Act requires agencies to complete a, quote, privacy impact assessment for any new online federal system by analyzing how personally identifiable information will be collected, stored, protected, shared, and managed within that system. Agencies are required to make the assessment public unless it would raise concerns with national security or reveal classified information. People have a right to know where their information is being stored by the government and how well it's being protected. Bro, what? So the federal government, under law, is required to go through a whole assessment process, which, knowing the federal government as well as I do, I imagine would involve quite a process, a length of time, meetings, drafting of reports, review periods, just to email its own employees in a bulk email. And y'all wonder why the government can't do shit properly, why it can't get the things done that we ask it to do, why there's a demand from the public for a Department of Government efficiency in the first place. That's what was so wild to me about this story, that these federal employees really thought they were doing their big one, thought they were like sticking it to Trump and Elon Musk, like, ha, you can't do that. You can't email us, even though you're our boss. But ironically, this whole thing proves the point of why they're doing this and why it's important in the first place. And that is just chef's kiss. But what do you guys think? Can you believe this is a real thing, a real federal law? I have to say, while I'm slightly horrified, I'm not particularly surprised. That'll be it for this episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast, guys. Thank you so much to everybody who's tuning in, including all the new people. We're growing so fast. Thanks again to today's sponsor, Lumen. Do hit that like button before you go. Do make sure you're subscribed if you aren't yet, and do comment with your thoughts. Love hearing what you guys have to say. With that, we'll talk again real soon.